كلية الفقه الحنفي تقدم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. Today we will be starting the chapter of Talaq. So Kitab al-Talaq, I will be using the Quduri mainly, guided and aided with certain commentaries such as Lubab or Al-Ikhtiyar, and we're just going to discuss certain masail, certain rulings, going through the Quduri generally speaking. So we're going to start off with the three types of talaq that the Quduri mentions initially. So he goes through three types of talaq. We will talk about these types of talaq. Then we will talk about what we mean by these three types of talaq. What is in relation to what? Because there's many types of talaq. You got different types of talaq in relation to different things, different aspects. So what, in relation to what aspect are we talking about? And we will go through that, and I'll give you a detailed explanation regarding the three types of talaq, what they are, and when they are issued, and how many are issued. We will talk about that. Now, just to remember that all three types of talaq will be issued. You will issue, whether it's a method which is recommended or not. The point is, when a man issues the divorce, it will always issue. Okay, so this is a point that we will discuss inshallah as well. We will also talk about the categorization in regards to the talaq in relation to a wife who has been consummated marriage with, or has been in seclusion with her husband, and also in relation to a wife who has not been consummated marriage with, or has not had seclusion. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about the divorce in relation to a wife who menstruates and a wife who doesn't menstruate, either because of old age or either because of being too young. Likewise, we will talk about the divorce of a pregnant wife. So can you issue divorce to a pregnant wife, and if you can, then how? So we'll talk about that too. And then lastly, we will talk about if a person has issued the divorce in a wrong manner, then what to do? How does a person set it right? And I think we'll also get to the points of discussing modern day talaq. If a man doesn't issue a talaq to his wife, then what recourse does the wife have? What can she do about it? And the role of Sharia councils and Sharia courts, you would say, in Muslim countries. Somewhat we will discuss that today as well, inshallah. And I think that would be about it. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So starting from Kitab al-Talaq, the chapter of talaq here. So firstly, we go through the different types of talaq, the different types of divorce, in terms of when a person gives divorce, and in terms of how many divorces are given. So in relation to when to give divorce and how many divorces to give, there are three types of divorce. First is the talaqul ahsan. Second is talaqul hasan. And the third is talaqul bid'ah. So you have three types of talaq: ahsan, hasan, and bid'ah. So ahsan and hasan are, one ahsan, as the name suggests, is the best method to give talaq. Then you have the hasan method of giving divorce, which is a good method that a person can give divorce in accordance to this way too. And lastly, you have a bid'ah way of giving divorce, which a person is in essence not encouraged at all. In fact, some places even mention that a person is sinful for giving divorce in this manner. So these are the different methods in which a person gives a divorce, in what period he's giving divorce, and how many divorces he's giving. So now, to elaborate on this, the ahsan method of giving divorce is, in essence, where a person gives one divorce to his wife in a period of purity in which he has not slept with her in. So the period of purity, meaning that she has just finished her haid, her menstrual cycle, and now she is in her period of purity. She is pure now. And in that period of purity, any time in that period of purity, he gives her, in her tuhar in essence, he gives her one divorce, one talaq. And in that tuhar, in that period of purity, he has not slept with her at all. So that is by giving her one divorce like that, and then letting her be. So where Allah Ta'ala mentions in the Quran, فَإِمْسَاكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ الطَّلَاقُ مَرَّتَانِ, then فَإِمْسَاكُمْ بِمَعْرُوفٍ أَوْ تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ. So he just does تَسْرِيحٌ بِإِحْسَانٍ, he lets her go, he releases her with this goodness. So he gives her one divorce, which is in essence, he's released her now, and he lets her be. So she will now start her waiting period, and she will go through 3 cycles of period, and 3 cycles of menstrual cycles, and she will have now finished her iddah. She would have finished her waiting period, and that's it. So that one divorce was given, and then he let her be. He let the nikah, in essence, come to an end after the waiting period fully. So this is the ahsan method of giving divorce, and as Ibrahim al-Nakhi mentions, the Sahaba radiallahu anhum would prefer this method of giving divorce in comparison to any other method of giving divorce. The second method was the Hasan method of giving divorce, which is again a good method of giving divorce, because this method comes from a hadith in which Rasulullah ﷺ told Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu to give divorce in this manner. So what happened was, Abdullah ibn Umar radiallahu anhu gave divorce to his wife in the menstrual cycle while she was in her haid, and Rasulullah ﷺ found out, to which he was very upset, and he told him to take her back, and then if he wishes to give divorce later on, then he can give divorce in this method. And which method is it? This Hasan method, which is that the man gives divorce to his wife again in that period of purity, in the tohar, in which he has not slept with her in. So he'll give her one divorce in this period of purity, and in the next period of purity that comes up, he will give her a second divorce, and in the last period of purity that comes up, he will give her a third divorce. So he will give her one now, then she will now obviously be in her her iddah. She will be in her waiting period. She will now be in her waiting period. When that first haid of hers come, that will be her first cycle of menstrual cycle, which counts towards her thalathata quru', 3 waiting, in amongst the waiting period, she has to complete 3 cycles of menstruation. So that's the first cycle of menstruation, after which comes a period of purity. So in that period of purity, he can renew kind of his desire to divorce her, and he divorces her one more time in that period of purity. So that's the second one, and then another one will come after that. Then he can divorce her a third time. So when he gives her 3 separate divorces like this in 3 cycles of the purity within one waiting period, this is the Hasan method of giving divorce. So this is the second way a person can give divorce. Now, because this is proven through the hadith of where Rasulullah ﷺ instructed Abdullah ibn Umar to give talaq in this manner, because that was suited to him, that was like the better method that he would have given talaq in. So Rasulullah ﷺ, he instructed him to do this way. That's the reason this talaq is also called talaq as-sunnah, because we know what sunnah definition is: something which Rasulullah ﷺ himself did, or something which Rasulullah approved of, something which Prophet ﷺ instructed of, something which Rasulullah saw happening and he didn't disapprove of. So this is something that Prophet ﷺ instructed a Sahabi to do in this manner, in this method, and that's the reason why this talaq is also called talaq sunnah, because it's proven through the sunnah. The first method, which we mentioned, the ahsan method, it was a method which the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they preferred, and they would only have preferred that over this method, which Ibrahim Nakhai mentions, that they preferred this method, the ahsan method, over the hasan method. They would only have preferred that if obviously something from Rasulullah ﷺ was said in this manner. But because we don't have something explicit, we can't call that a talaq a sunnah, we call it the ahsan method, and we call it the hasan method. So remember, this talaq a sunnah, it doesn't mean, some people get really confused here, because how can you have a talaq which is a sunnah method, and that one there's a better method than it, simply because the ahsan method, as we understood, is proven through Quran as well as mass level Sahaba radiallahu anhu preferred this method. So, and logically speaking as well, it's a preferred method, because the idea of it is when a person gives that one divorce, then later on, if 6 months down the line, which happens in many cases, or a year down the line, they want to get back together again, they will be able to get back together again. So as the books mention, this is ab'adu lil-nadamati, it's further from a person regretting later on. Because if a person does the hasan method, where he gives one divorce now, one divorce the next period of purity, and then the next one, that's it, it's finished, it's done. 6 months down the line, 1 year down the line, they realize that actually, you know what, we want to maybe try again. They can't try again unless other things have happened. So it's a stickier situation. There's more regret there, where there is very little chance now where they can get back together again. So this is why this method, the ahsan method, is the preferred method. And we have the hasan method, which is still a good method, like we said, because it's been proven through a hadith. So we can't criticize that method. It's still a good method. So these are the two ways of giving divorce that we've understood. And then we have the talaq al-bid'ah. So talaq al-bid'ah is where a person any other way gives divorce. So besides these two, any other way. So if a person, for example, was to give a talaq in the hayd, like we mentioned, in the menstrual cycle, then this would be a talaq al-bid'ah. Likewise, if a person was to give a talaq during a period of purity, which he has slept with his wife in. So he slept with her already in that tahar, and in that same tahar he's going to now divorce her. This will be a talaq al-bid'ah. Likewise, if a person was to give 3 in one go, which is very common nowadays. So a person gives all 3 in one go, or gives 2 in one go, or gives one today and a few days later gives another one, or gives 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, like that. So he gives more than one in within that tahar. This is all going to be falling under the talaq al-bid'ah. So the idea is that anything which is not ahsan, anything which is not hasan, will fall under the category of talaq al-bid'ah. And this is something that we should be refraining from, staying away from, not going towards this type of talaq. So this is the 3 types of talaq, very briefly understood, that talaq is given, or when a person is giving talaq, and the time period you're giving talaq in accordance to that, and the amount of talaqs you give. There are 3 categories, 3 types of talaq in this regard. And the reason I'm repeating that is because there will be other types of talaq, but in relation to a different concept. So here the concept is, when are you giving it, and how many are you giving? So in relation to that, there are these 3 types of talaq. Hopefully this makes sense. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now when it comes to understanding basically what we've the basics of what we've understood, the 3 types of talaq, moving on, this is in relation to a woman, a wife, a person who he has consummated marriage with her. So if a man has already consummated marriage with his wife, then these three types of talaq will apply the way we have said. And if a person has not yet consummated marriage with his wife, then a slight few differences will apply. So now to understand that if a person gave, for example, a divorce during the menstrual cycle, then normally we consider that to be a bid'ah, right? But when it comes in relation to a wife who he has not consummated marriage with, then even in the state of hayd, he will be allowed to give divorce to her. And even in the state of, obviously, tohar, in a state of purity, a person will be allowed to give divorce to her. So in essence, if we understood, there were two aspects that we talked about. We talked about these types of talaqs in terms of number and in terms of time period when you're giving divorce. So in relation to both of these, the three types were there, right? So now, when it comes to the number of divorces you give, you only ever give one, and that will always be the ahsan method. And if you give three, one in each period of tohr, then that would have been the hasan method of giving divorce. And anything else would have been a bid'ah. But when it comes to a wife who he hasn't consummated marriage with, then when a man gives divorce to this wife, then immediately the nikah would have ended and there would be no waiting period on her. As long as there was no, like I said, consummation or anything that is deemed as consummation, which we'll talk about later on. So this wife who he hasn't been in seclusion with yet, he hasn't consummated marriage with yet, he gave divorce to her. As soon as he gives a divorce, there is no waiting period. So that the nikah would have come to an end completely. So now, if you understand that, then you can see for yourselves and you can understand for yourself that there will be no opportunity for him to do the talaqul hasan method, whereby he gives one talaq now, then waits for the cycle, menstrual cycle to come, and then gives talaq a second one in the next tohr, and then one in the next tohr, next purity. There would be no opportunity for him because as soon as he gives the first divorce, it's already finished. So, in relation to a woman, a wife who he has not consummated marriage with, there would only be the ahsan method for that person. Otherwise, it would be the bid'ah method, whereby a person gives all three in one go. For example, I give you 3 divorces, like that. So this would be a bid'ah. Or he gives 2 talaqs in one go. This would also be a bid'ah. So there's only 2 types in relation to the wife who he has not consummated or been in seclusion with. Hopefully that makes sense. So everything we talked about in the previous video, we understood that was in relation to a wife who he has consummated marriage with or been in seclusion with, and there would be them 3 types of divorces because she is doing an iddah, she is doing the waiting period. And this woman, in regards to this particular wife, because there is no waiting period for her, that's why there would be no talaqul hasan method. There would only be the ahsan method, and then there would be the bid'ah method. So only 2 types of talaq in this regards for her. So hopefully this makes sense, this is clarified. And I also mentioned that this wife, he is allowed to give her divorce even in the hayd. That would not be a bid'ah. The reason why, people will be thinking, why is that the case? The reason, simple reason, as there are many reasons why, there's deep reasons why, will take a long time to explain, but the very simple reason as to why, which is understandable, is that because the reason why it would have been bid'ah to give her talaq and divorce in the hayd is because if you give her a woman who you have consummated marriage with, the wife he has consummated marriage with, talaq in the hayd, that hayd doesn't count towards the waiting period 3 cycles, meaning thalathat quru'. She will be in the waiting period, obviously. If he divorces her in the hayd, she will be now in the waiting period. But this won't count towards the thalathat quru' she has to do. So she will have an extra long iddah, waiting period. So she will complete the few days, whatever days, how many days she has left in this hayd. She will do the full tohr that comes next, and then the hayd that comes, the menstruation that comes after that, that will count towards that will be the first qar', the thalathat quru', that will be her first waiting, the period for the waiting period that she has to do 3 cycles for. So because this become an extra long iddah for her for no reason here, that's the reason why it would be bid'ah. But now for this particular woman we're talking about, who he has not consummated marriage with, this wife of his, because she has no waiting period, then it makes no difference whether he divorces her in the menstrual cycle or whether he divorces her in the period of purity. It'll be fine, no problem. Both are okay, because she has no iddah. There's no prolonging of iddah for her. So hopefully that now makes sense too. Now, to lastly understand that if a man does divorce his wife the talaq bid'ah way, right? So let's say he gave her divorce in the hayd. That talaq will occur. Yeah, the talaq will occur. Though a person is bid'ah to do so, he's prohibited from doing this, it will still occur. And as the book mentions, as Quduri mentions, وَكَانَ عَاصِيًا, that the person will be sinful. For issuing a divorce in this way, he will be sinful. Now, understand there's one concept here to be understood, that how can this person be sinful and it be prohibited, but the talaq still goes through, we're saying. So if a person was to give 3 divorces in one go, he gave 3 divorces, said talaq, 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 like many people do, or I give you 3 divorces all in one go, despite him being unaware of it, that all 3 will occur, or for whatever reason he gave it, then the talaqs will all occur. All 3 talaqs will occur, and he will be sinful for issuing a talaq in this manner. So it's very important that a person understands that talaq will occur. The obvious question arises here is that how can a talaq occur when we're saying it's prohibited? So the answer to this is simple, that you pray in usul, you pray that you have something which is mashru' fi nafsihi or fi dhatihi, and is mamnu' li ghayrihi. So for example, something is, let's say, praying salat. Praying salah is legislated, it's legal, it's fine, it's rewardable. A person gets reward for praying salah, so it's mashru' fi nafsihi, within itself, it is something which is legal, legislated. A person can pray salat. But if a person wants to pray salat at a prohibited time, at a time where it's prohibited to pray salah, when the sun is rising, for example, then at this particular time, a person will be told not to pray. So though salat in itself is mashru' fi dhatihi, but at sunrise time it's mamnu', it's prohibited, but li ghayrihi, for an external reason. So in the same way over here, likewise doing anything else like fasting it's mashru', it's within itself, it is legal, it's legislated. But fasting on, for example, the day of Eid is prohibited, but it's prohibited not within itself, it's prohibited due to an external reason, not because of the fast, but because you're fasting on a certain day. Likewise, you're praying on a certain time. Likewise, you're giving talaq at a certain time. So when you're giving talaq in a certain way or in a certain time, that's prohibited. But it's prohibited due to an external reason, because you're giving talaq in hayd, or you're giving talaq 3 in one go, for example. So you're not doing the talaq the way you were told to give talaq. So that's the reason it's prohibited, for external reason. But within itself, it is legal, it's legislated. So that's why the talaq will still occur. So hopefully this would now be clarified and make sense. If a man gives divorce to his wife who has menstrual cycles, and he wants to give the second method, we said the talaqul hasan method of giving divorce, and she is obviously a wife that he has consummated marriage with, then he will give one in a like we said, one in the period of purity which he has not slept with her in, then wait for the menstrual cycle to come, and then give one in the next tohar, in the next purity, and then one more in the final purity. So this is the method. But now what if a woman doesn't have menstrual cycles, So how will he gap the 3 divorces that he wants to give? So the way to do that is he gaps it by months. So he'll give one in this month, then the following month he will give another one, and then the following month he'll give another one. Obviously, according to Islamic months, the lunar calendar he will be following. So in this method, a person can give 3 divorces separated apart with months in between, with a month in between in essence. And in this way, a person will be able to give this type of talaq, if they want to a wife who doesn't have hayd, doesn't have menstruation. So that's that. Now, if a man wants to give divorce to his wife who is pregnant, then how does he do that? So he can give talaq, he can give divorce to his wife who is pregnant straight away, straight after sleeping with her. Normally we said if a man was to consummate the marriage during the period of purity, he would not give talaq, he would not give divorce in that period of purity. He would wait for the next period of purity to come. But this time, because there is no period of purity that is going to come for her if he has consummated, and obviously he has consummated marriage with her, right? Because she's pregnant. So that consummation of marriage is proven because of her being pregnant. So now, how does he give her talaq if he wants to give her a talaq? So the idea here is that he's going to have to be allowed to give her divorce even after having slept with her. So here, there's an allowance for him to give talaq even after having slept with her. And again, if he wants to give the second method, the talaqul hasan method, then he can give one now, a month later, another one, and a month later, another one. If that much time is allowed, there's an allowance of that much time within her waiting period. Obviously, if he gives a one now, then the very next month she gave birth already, then he won't be able to give another one because she's already finished her waiting period. Because the 3 divorces have to occur within the waiting period for him to even be able to issue it. So that's the way a person can give divorce within a pregnancy if he wants to give the talaqul hasan method. The ahsan method is obvious. He gives one talaq, one divorce, and leaves her. Let her be. She will now do the waiting period, and she will finish off the pregnancy, and afterwards she will have finished. Meaning the waiting period would have been over, and the nikah will no longer be. So this is the way a person can give talaq, a divorce, to a pregnant wife of his. Now, moving on, if a person was to give a talaq, issue a divorce, in the hayd, in the menstruation, then it is mustahab for this person. In fact, it is wajib, as mentioned according to the most correct opinion. It is wajib for this person to take back that divorce, to take her back. So meaning, what do we mean by take her back? So he's given her a divorce in the state of menstruation, right? And then he realizes that this is something bid'ah, this is something which is sinful for, he shouldn't be doing this. Because Abdullah ibn Umar, we talked about, who did this, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told Umar Khattab radiyallahu anhu, Mur ibnak, tell your son, فَلْيُرَاجِعْهَا, he should take her back. So, because there was instruction from Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to tell Abdullah ibn Umar to take her back, this is why we say that we also will instruct the same, that he should take her back. Now obviously he has used one divorce already, so he only has 2 divorces remaining. He has 2 divorces remaining, he has given one already in the state of hayd, and he has taken her back. So her iddah no longer applies. She's not in iddah anymore. This is his wife, he's taken her back now. He's retracted the divorce. So he's got 2 left. Now if he wishes, when the next tohr comes, the next period of purity comes, if he wishes, he can give her a divorce then. And obviously he's using a second divorce of his, so he only has 1 left. but that would now start her waiting period, her iddah from then, because he took the other one back. That was cancelled. Now he's issuing her another divorce if he wishes to. And obviously, if he wishes to keep her, they wish to stay together, then that's fine. They can carry on living a life of married life in essence. But if he does wish to, then he can give her a divorce in that next tohr that is coming up, the next period of purity after he gave her a divorce. So this is if a person gives her a divorce, then what to do. Next, we come to the ruling regarding a person who gave divorce to his wife, whose divorce will initiate. So the husband obviously is the one that can only issue a divorce. That's the first thing that needs to be understood. So it's only the husband that can issue a divorce. Secondly, the husband has to be mature, he has to be sane. So these things have to be there. If the husband is mature, he is sane. Obviously, if he's immature, he's not mature yet, or if he's insane, then his talaq will not occur. Likewise, if he's not the husband, his talaq will not occur. So if, for example, it's his fiancée that he's going to get married to, and he says that you're divorced, right? Nothing happens because he is not married to her yet, right? So likewise, if in certain countries we have a judge who is issuing a divorce, and the husband is not saying anything, the husband is not doing anything, the judge is doing it. Or in certain countries you have a Sharia council and they are issuing a divorce. Then remember, generally speaking, they will not be able to issue a divorce. Okay, so they cannot issue divorces. A divorce cannot be issued by anybody besides the husband. The husband's the only one who will be able to issue a divorce. So this needs to be understood. So if in certain countries we have a judge is saying that I will issue the divorce on behalf of the husband, he can't really do that, right? He has to have taken first, what needs to have happened is he has to have taken permission from the husband. He has to become a wakil, as we call it, a agent, acting on behalf of the husband to issue a divorce. So he will write to the husband saying that I will issue or give me authority to give your wife a divorce, or something along these lines, and with clever wording in a nice way, whereby the husband will then sign the document perhaps, or he will give the authority, the right to the judge or to whoever it is to issue a divorce on behalf of himself if they see fit, if the judge or whoever is involved sees fit. So this is the proper way to try to issue a divorce on behalf of somebody if it's gone down this route. Now obviously there are certain cases sometimes what happens now that you have a husband who is just being very awkward, and he's not issuing a divorce and he's keeping her hanging, he's keeping the wife hanging, and he's not issuing a divorce as well, and he's not treating her well as well. Then what happens if it's a Sharia country, then obviously you go to the judge, and a judge will annul the nikah. He will use his power to be able to, obviously first he will cause pressure on the husband, and the husband will generally, in a Sharia, in a country which is Islamic, and you have Sharia there, then it's quite easy. The Qadi, the judge, will be able to cause pressure on the husband, through threats as well, to make him issue the divorce. So that's how the husband will then issue the divorce, and the Qadi would have made him do so, or would have gained like you said, the agency from the husband and issued the divorce on behalf of the husband. So this is the way it properly works. Now obviously in countries like in the UK or in any other Western country where you don't have a Sharia court as such, you don't have a judge, a Muslim judge, so what do you do? So then we have Sharia councils. So you have a council that of some people come together, and here we use the Maliki school. We go to the jurisprudence of the Maliki school, and we take from them that they are allowed to do this. So they were obviously scholars that got together, understood that there's a need of this to issue a fatwa on that particular ruling. So then they issued a fatwa on that if there is a group of people like this who have taqwa, who have piety, got good consciousness, and they understand the rulings of talaq and things, and they try their best to try to work things out between them, and it's not working, and they see fit that here we need to cancel, annul the nikah, then they will utilize this discretion to try to do that. But like I said, that would be like a last case. They will try to cause pressure on the husband to give a divorce. So like I, for example, have dealt with cases like this whereby the husband is not giving a divorce and he's being stubborn. We've tried to talk to him. First he was being very nice, and then suddenly he changes his tune and he doesn't want to give a divorce. So how we do is we try to write to the husband to try to give us agency to, in nice wording and in a way whereby he understands that he's, going to have to do this, otherwise there'll be legal implications, and we're trying to prevent that from happening. So generally speaking, in a nice, you can say, sugar-coated, threatening way, you have to try to get the husband to give you authority to be able to give. That's what we try to do. And if that doesn't happen, the husband is still ignoring any communication and letters, which happens. So in one particular case, the husband was ignoring any communication. So what we did was, we found out regarding where the husband is. He has certain friends. So he had a friend, for example, in this particular case, he had a friend at a barber's. So he would go to the barber's shop every day, just sit with his friend whilst his friend is, working away, cutting hair of people. So that barber was the son of a scholar that I knew. So what we did was, we went to that scholar and said that, this so-and-so person is the friend of your son, and he is doing this to his wife. He's leaving her hanging and he's not really giving her a divorce. So he said, I know that person, I know that boy. Why is he not giving divorce? Why is he messing about like this? Because obviously it's against the Quranic ruling here. فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقَ, leaving her hanging in this way is something which is prohibited, told to the men in the Quran by Allah Ta'ala not to do. So anyway, the scholar obviously knows that this is something grave, so he straight away immediately calls his son and says that, is this boy there? And he wasn't there at that time, so he said, when he comes next time, tell him to call me. So a few days later, when he came, he called him, and he says, the uncle basically to him, the scholar that I know, he asks him that why I've heard of this. He tells his side, and he says, look, she wants divorce. Why are you not giving her a divorce? He says, no, I'll give it. So he said, give her then. So then immediately he gave divorce. So the idea is that when you cause pressure through those sources where the man would want to save his face in front of, he wants to look good in front of these people, so then he will give the divorce, but you just have to find the right people. So anyway, generally speaking, this works. Obviously we do understand that there will be cases where it may not. That's why the last case scenario is there, whereby they will use the discretion of annulling the nikah, but they won't just do that very readily, very easily, unfortunately, like many Sharia councils today are doing. So they shouldn't go to that step without having done their due diligence, is the point. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillah. So to summarize what we've done today, we've been through the three types of talaq: ahsan, hasan, and bid'ah, in relation to a wife who seclusion has been at least done with. In essence, consummation has been done. Consummation of the marriage has been done. So there are three types of talaq in relation to her, and obviously it's mainly thing to remember is the number of divorces you're giving to her. So in ahsan you're giving her only one. In hasan you're giving her three, but spaced in the three different periods of her purity within that waiting period. And the bid'ah would be anything else. So the number of divorce and when to give divorce to her in a period of purity where you have not consummated marriage with her. So where you have not slept with her in essence. So this is the first thing that we discussed in detail. And in relation to a wife who has not been yet secluded with, so she would not have a waiting period if she was divorced. So in relation to her, there's only two types of divorces for her: the ahsan, where you give one divorce and she's finished, and or the bid'ah way. So there's only these two when we in relation to her. A wife who has no menstruation, she will be gapped. Her talaqs will be gapped by months if a person wants to give the Hasan method. And a wife who is pregnant, you can give divorce to her too. So all these methods, a person can give talaq to a wife. The point is, because there's a hadith that ثلاث جدهن جد وهزلهن جد. So three things Rasulullah mentioned, that even if a person is joking, a person does it, meaning in essence the point is that even if a person does it in ignorance, the talaq will still issue. All right, the concept of the talaq is very important to remember. It's like a loaded gun, right? You have a loaded gun, you have 3 bullets in the barrel. If you shoot, it will shoot, and if you're pointing at somebody, it will hit that person, right? You can't say that I didn't know that this would happen, right? I didn't know that if I shoot, then the bullet will hit this person, or I didn't know that bullet will come flying out. Regardless of you knowing or not knowing, your ignorance is not going to stop that person from being hit by that bullet, right? In the same way here, the talaq is something which is loaded. If a person gives the talaq, it will be issued, right? Regardless of the way that they issue it. So this is something that, a concept which must be remembered and understood. And if a person gave talaq in the hayd, then he has to take it back. It's the Quduri mentions that it's mustahab, but if you see the commentaries that I mentioned, like in Lubab, he mentions that the asah opinion, the more correct opinion, that it's wajib to take her back. And this is mentioned by various mashayikh, he says, and that is mentioned to be the asah opinion, as mentioned by Qasim Qutlubuha in his At-Tashih wa Tarjih, where he commentates upon the more correct opinions of Quduri. So that's that clarified. And then we also mentioned regarding the modern day, if a woman doesn't get a divorce through the husband is being stubborn, not giving the divorce, then how does she go about doing that? She would go to a Sharia council, and the Sharia council will help her to get the divorce from the husband, either by causing pressure on the husband to issue the divorce, or either by way of proxying, taking responsibility from the husband, and then they issue the divorce as an agent of the husband. So these methods should be adopted first. And lastly, if there is no way that a husband is just not listening at all, then they can cancel and annul the nikah. So that's what they would do. They would do a fasakh, what we call it, of nikah. So this is what the Sharia Council's role would be nowadays. But like I said, this must be the Sharia Council must follow this procedure and follow they fulfill the due diligence that they have to fulfill. Many Sharia councils, unfortunately, nowadays will just jump on just going to step 3 basically, because they feel as though step 1 and step 2 might be a waste of time for them. But this is not an answer. This is not the way to follow this ruling. So this is something hopefully clarified.